Amazing how things change in a couple of hours. We did an arrangement with our good friend, and it's a long time ago. I was looking back at the record. The last time we had you on here was the build up to TJ Doheny. That doesn't
Yeah.
seem like it doesn't seem that long ago, and
Blink.
in other ways, it was a lifetime ago. In a blink, you said it the other night, mate. A blink.
Yeah.
It's
Blink of
great to
an
have
eye.
you on. Um, it's a lot. It's hard to even know. I was trying to think where to start. There's that much change, I think, since the last time we chatted. But one thing has stayed the same, and I think that's boxing. It's the only thing that stays the same,
Mhm.
isn't it? In the whole
Yes.
crazy mixed up world. But you're
Yeah.
doing well. You're looking great. How's everything going for Mick Conlan?
Everything's going great, Training camp, probably the best one. I know every fitter says this, so probably sound like a broken record when people say this now, but it's definitely the best training camp I've had in a very long time. Um, Everything from sparring, preparation, my S&C, everything is on point. And mentally, I'm probably in the best place I've been in a very long time. So, I'm excited, mate. I'm looking forward to the first one in Dublin. In the latter stage of my career, no doubt, but it's still there, and this dream to be world champion is still there. So, it's perfect timing.
One of my great friends in this game, and I've been really blessed. I've been really, really blessed over the years to be able to speak and mix with you guys. And I came from late to the game from a GA background, and eventually took the plunge. But Wayne McCullough is a really close friend of mine and a mentor, and he's given me a lot of belief and a lot of insight. And two of the things he wanted to do, well, similar to yourselves, because one thing that you guys from Belfast is everyone. Tyrone told me the same. They fucking dread that drive down to Dublin to stay there all week and live there. And the other thing Tyrone told me was just don't put me in with Willie McLaughlin. Nobody wanted to be in with Willie Mack for sparring. But
Yeah.
I suppose the other thing Wayne wanted to do was he wanted to win his world title and have a defence in Dublin. And am I allowed to share our conversation, the little text message the other night
Yep.
about
No problem.
this is the first for you, but your dream now is you want to fight in Dublin. This you'd like to see however one fight at a time and see where it goes from now on.
100%. I'd like to have a load of fights in Dublin, not just a one off. Dublin's a place where I'm very used to. I lived there for a long time on the national team. I have family from Dublin, and it's a place I feel at home in. So I'm looking forward to going and fighting there. And, I'd like to kind of finish my career there, win a world title there, and just enjoy it. Enjoy the place where I am, and that'll be Dublin, hopefully.
Many people that know Mick Conlan know Grace, the song, and they know that song, and it gets the hairs standing, and they've become familiar with it. And that's a song that's very much familiar, and it's very much a part of Dublin history. So to hear that belted
Mm.
out in the Tree Arena, mate, at least once, but listen, we're going to say at least three or four times for the next few years, it's going to be very
Yeah.
special. At what point, we'll go back a little farther, and I don't want to go too because there's so much history, but mate, there was some worrying scenes in different fights, and Irish people have taken you into their heart over the years. There's been plenty of times where you've been spiky and you've had your twos and fro's, but mate, those scenes after the wood fights and after fights like that where your heart broke and you wore your heart on your sleeve, it's
Yeah.
fair to say, even going back to Rio, you've always worn your heart on your sleeve. You've never hidden behind it. It's always been out there. What's on your mind comes out, doesn't it? So at what
Yeah.
stage or at
I think honesty is the best policy. And you got to be honest with yourself, especially in boxing, because it's a very dangerous game to be, lying to yourself. If I didn't believe in my heart that I could still win a world title, I wouldn't be boxing. Simple as that. There's no point. It's the hurt business, and you know, um, I've earned a lot of money in boxing. I've done really well out of boxing, so like it's not like there's a reason, financial reason. There's some financial comes with obviously fighting. Of course, it's great, but at the same time, I don't need it to have an awful lot of things. I was not like a lot of fighters. I was very smart with money and set myself up outside of boxing, which I think a lot of young fighters need to think about at the start of their careers because it gets to the tail end and they start to worry what's next, what do I do, what do I do. For any fitter, they kind of have to they'll go through that at some stage, but I was on it from the start because when you look at the old timers, the greats, your Tysons, your even on back, a lot of these fighters go broke and bankrupt, and you know they try to keep up a lifestyle of when they're a fighter and they're able to do X, Y, and Z, and then when that income isn't coming, it's very scary, and they don't know what to do. So, I've been someone that hasn't really lived it in my means, and maintained a livable lifestyle. So and set businesses and own properties around fucking around the country. So I've been smart that way. So the only thing I want to do now is win a world title. If I do it, fantastic. If I don't, so be it. Because this, as I've says in many interviews now, the next defeat that'll be me. I'll say that that's enough. I don't need to be doing boxing. It's a tough sport. It's a sport you can never love because it will never love you back. And you got to be very very smart in this game and know when it's time to say goodbye.
The dangers never became more obvious, I suppose, for us that love boxing and love what you guys do. I'd be brutal enough about it. I boxed for Irish ropes years ago, and I know what it feels like to get punched in the face and taste your own blood and not feel.
Mm.
And as John Breen said to me, it's the scary place in the world to be when your feet aren't working and you can't get away and you don't know what to do. But
Yeah,
I think what a lot of fans realized this year, and it came home very close to home and too close to home for me, when a really good friend of mine and a fella that you would have known and worked with up close would have been John Cooney. It was a
yeah,
real eye opener. It was a real. It's hard to even know what words to put to it at times. But I think it brought home the stark reality of, for me, it made me question: do I even want to do this? Do I even want to be around? Because when good
hundred
people like that,
percent.
just good people with the exact same dream, mate, that you have, on that same a little bit earlier, but mate, he absolutely stole the show. He tore it up that night, and it was all there for him. So when we see that happening, your words ring very much loud and very much true, and never really were they more appropriate, were they?
100%. Listen, boxing's a very dangerous sport. You know, people lose their lives. You look just a few weeks ago, the show in Japan. I think two people on the
Mm.
same show passed away, and it's really, really dangerous. People can get in there, and people online and around the world will slate fighters and stuff, but you have to respect any man. There's willing to
Yeah,
step into the ring with a small pair of gloves on, no protection, just battling it out against another man. It's kill or be killed in the game at times for people. I would never want to permanently hurt somebody or take someone's life in a ring. That's not something I would ever say or something that would ever come across my mind. Before I go into any fight, I pray for both me and my opponent to come out safe. So that's something I've always done, and I know the dangers of this sport. You know, yes, I've had a few wars, but the majority of my fights have been very smart and boxing, barely
mm.
get hit. So, the last few, yes, probably get into a few, but that's just the game at times, and you gotta play the fucking hand you're dealt and make sure you do everything the correct way and pick the right fights at the right time. Boxing's a dirty place, mate. It's something that it's not a sport I love it or something that I enjoy sitting down and watching and getting into or like follow on a consistent
Yeah.
basis. If I'm going to be honest, I've done it 27 years now. It's I get enough of boxing. I've had enough of boxing at times. So it is what it is. But it's something I'm good at. Something I believe I can still be a world champion in. And I know the risks. I know the damage that it can do to people. And I believe I'm smart enough and knowledgeable enough to get away from any of that stuff.
It's a horrible thought and it's a horrible side, and it's probably the most horrible when you get down to the nuts and bolts of it, because the people around it, if you're lucky enough, and I think you've been lucky enough at times, and you've been sensible and clever to find. I've been blessed, genuinely. I don't know whether it's a mixture of luck or just chance in my arm or whatever it case, but to have people who, even if they can't help you, when they won't set you wrong, because there's a lot of people will set you wrong on purpose just to see you do wrong and go wrong. And I think in that sense alone, I've done well. But I suppose what I wanted to get back to, and not to get too doom and gloom about it, man, at what point you took a year out, you went marathon running, little, you couldn't just sit around, get fat and do nothing. You went and run marathons and you do all that. At what point along, because I know how lonely those journeys get when you're on those long runs and you're on that, at what point, at what was ever a point where it was like, fuck this, I'm done with boxing, I don't need it anymore, I'm out the door and finished? What, did it ever get that far, or was it
You
always
know,
just wait and see?
no, it was like in the immediate aftermath of my last defeat. I says that's enough. Don't need this no more. Don't need to put my family through this no more. But I held my tongue. and it's something I don't do regularly. But I held my tongue. I didn't say no.
I was going to say you did well.
Yeah, because I would usually just say something right away, but I was like, no,
Yeah.
if I say it, you'll regret it. So I says, okay. So I started to run the marathons. And I wasn't of the thought then, like I just says, I'll give it time, I'll see how I feel. I started to train for a marathon. 2 weeks after that loss, I started to just join the running club and started to run because I can't sit at peace. I need to be doing something,
Mm.
whether it's working or looking after properties or actually doing some training. I need to train. I love training. So I started to train for a marathon and planned to do it under 3 hours. So I knew I needed to put some serious work in. And it was during when I knew it was definitely I got to get back to boxing, is because when you have to get up at 5 a.m. to run 21 to 22 miles up and down hills in the freezing cold and the pissing rain, I was like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm better. I'm a better boxer. I'm a good runner, but I'm a better boxer. I need to get back to that. I still have things to achieve and goals to reach, and I know they're still within my grasp. So I says, fuck it. I'll do the marathon and then I'll get back to it, and that's what I've done.
So who has the better time, you or Frampton?
Marathon?
Isn't he training for a marathon? He's doing mini marathon. He's half marathons at the moment, isn't he?
Oh, well, I've been running backwards, I'd say.
There's a challenge laid down. We gotta go.
Aye.
I saw him pulling up the other day. He did a video the other day pulling up. He had put an injury or something. I think he first time in his life he admitted he's getting old. But
Oh, is he training for a marathon? Is he? Fair play to him.
I
Mate,
think he was. Yeah, I think he was.
listen, anybody who runs a marathon has my respect, because that's a
Yeah.
tough old gig, and it's not something they're getting paid for, so they got to do it off their own bat, and it's hard, mate. I done the marathon in 2 hours 55 minutes, and I'm not lying. I was sound up until mile 24. I felt like a sniper came out of the bushes and shot me, and everything just slowed down. My last two miles were slowest miles, which was 7:10 and 7:15, I think. So every other mile was around 6:30, which was the pace I had to keep. So and I don't Manchester. I don't even remember seeing any sights because I was just focused on my time, focused on my stride, focused on my breathing, and I went.
A high achiever, and it's done. So you're a retired marathon runner now. You're fully in. You're back in all
I
over the box.
after
Area, so.
boxing, I'll probably get into the running, like, because I do enjoy it. Like, yeah, I enjoy pain, mate. I do really enjoy the pain of training, and it helps because you're a boxer, because you have to go through a lot of pain when you're training. But the running, my respect for anybody. Don't
Mm.
care your time, for who does a marathon. Fair play, because the longer your time is, fair play even more, because see, having to run for 4 hours or over 3 hours, I'd be saying no chance. The fact that it was 2 hours 55 minutes, I was like, all right, sound, I can hit that, no problem.
But in a way, I suppose what it does is, and what I want to tie this into as well is probably not just the boxing world, but in what we call the real world and the outside world, or the whatever you want to call it. There's a lot of people right now in Ireland, in Belfast, in the UK. A lot of people around the world are going through hard times. Whether it's
Mm.
trying to make ends meet from income, whether it's bills, whether it's depression, whether it's suffering with mental health. A lot of people choose the wrong way. They find that they'll self-medicate, or they'll throw themselves into a bottle, and before they know it, the problems are gone a million times worse.
Yeah.
Having gone through a few tough times myself, nothing sinister, nothing bad, but just the world feels like it's closing in on you at times. And we've a habit of just Irish fellas at times, you get your head down, just say nothing, keep going, shut your mouth, don't cry, don't tell anyone, keep going.
Mm.
There is a point in the road where you pull what you did and you stop everything and you just hang on a minute, where am I? Where am I now? Where am I? What's going on? Because somewhere along the line, if you just keep pulling forward and plowing forward, like the old times we were told, it doesn't always work, does it? To be able to reset,
Yeah,
stop,
that's not
take.
that's that. Yeah, as you said a minute ago, that's the Irish mentality.
Mm,
Man up, shut up, man up. It's simple as that, isn't
mm,
it? But like, you need the whole world. We're in a pandemic of mental health. It seems, how much people are suffering, and it's probably always been that way, but there's just more awareness around it now. Um, in my opinion, anybody can through anything. Speak to somebody, speak to a friend. There's always someone who'll care and someone will love you.
mm.
But also get yourself out and exercise, because running. I was in a very dark place after that last fight, with stuff in my personal life, stuff in my sporting career, and mate, I would say I was depressed, like, you know what I mean. So the running really helped me. You're out there, you're running, you're doing 20 mile up and down hills, and sometimes you're alone, yeah. But with the running club, there was just the crack and having talking to people, and it was so easy, like, you know what I mean. It really did help. It really helped my head and helped me kind of find out what I really wanted to do, and get back to doing what I was best at.
And then it's time to come back. You come back, and the question, I think the word was out around the Mick was, and I speak a good bit to Sean O'Hagan, and I knew you had one. I was like, we all wonder for a long time, will that fight ever happen? I'm not even going to ask that. We have to get over this one first. But you're putting the team back together. The question was, and I remember the conversations you gave me, and something simple that stuck in my mind was the conversation about when you went the very first time to the West Coast, and silly stuff like the noise of seals at night time were keeping you awake, and you just couldn't settle. And I know you Belfast guys, particularly Belfast, there's a magnetic draw to that city. There's a special bond. There's a special connection. So it was never going to be a million miles. We're never going to go too far away again. What put Leeds on the horizon, and what put Grant? Because Grant's story in itself, I just want to say this, anyone that doesn't know Grant Smith's story, guys, you got to go listen to it. You got
Yeah,
to
go
go
on,
check
go
this
and
man
look it
out.
up. Yeah,
He's tougher than most fighters. He's an enigma. The fact that he's doing what he's doing at all is I wouldn't say miracle too often, but it's borderline miraculous. But how did that come about, Mick? And I suppose, and then rebuilding the team around that, because your team was unique to you at that time. So you've literally pieced it all back together again.
yeah, I've changed everything up. It's not Leeds though; it's Sheffield.
Sheffield, sorry.
It's much different than Leeds. Uh, how it came to Grant. I tried Grant, Stephen Smith, and Buddy McGirt, and Grant was the one out of all of them who was pulling me on the mistakes I was making. Stephen was fantastic as well, and Buddy was very good as well. They're all very good coaches. So, um, for me, Grant was saying the things and pulling the mistakes which I know I make and I get away with an awful lot of the time, but sometimes it caused me problems. So he pulled me up on the mistakes. I was able to kind of figure out, okay, he's the one who is pulling me up and wanting to be pulled up. The gym is thriving. You've got Dalton there, you've got Janade Boston there, you've got good fighters in the gym who are all on the same mission to be a world champion. And they're all younger than me too, which is great because I love competition, especially in the gym. And I love to push yourself against anybody. And that's why I says, here's the right place. It was a buzzing gym. Grant as a man, top man. One of the best guys you'll meet. His morals and things he said, I was like, nope, that's the kind of person who's on the same kind of wavelength as me. I like that. And as a coach, my God, I think he's very underrated. He's very, very good. He's helped me fucking fix an awful lot of stuff in the short period we've been together. So, I'm really happy. It's the right place, the right time, and the right coach. So, it was a hard enough decision, obviously, because Buddy's fucking a world class
Mhm.
coach and well known. Stephen, up and coming coach, will give it everything and very, very knowledgeable in boxing. Grant was just probably more tried and tested in terms of between Grant and Stephen, and Buddy is all around the place with different fighters. So I was like, no, Grant's where I'll go. That's where I need to be. And also Stephen was in Liverpool, so I was like, no, that's probably a dangerous place for me to live because there's too much people from home in Liverpool, and I need to be focused on the job. Sheffield's not the most glamorous place in the world, and if you look at the places where I have went to LA, then down to Surrey and London, just to say London, then to Miami, and now I'm in Sheffield. So it's some contrast there. Um, but for me, all it is training camp. It's work, and I don't need anything. All I need to do is bring a set of golf clubs and bring my PC and my gaming setup, and all train golf. Just kind of mess about that way.
Alex Arthur told me 2 weeks ago, and you just something to just put in my mind there. Alex told me a couple of weeks ago, and he says this as a fact. And who am I to contradict? Amazing, Alex himself. He said there's a lot of coaches at the moment are being told what to do by fighters, and I'm not looking for names. I'm not looking for quotes. I'm not looking for, but something you said there really resonated with me. You wanted someone that's going to say, "Hold on a minute, is there?" And this has just been down the line with you. Is there scenarios where you walk into a gym, everybody knows who Mick Conlan is, and this is not blowing bubbles. This is not anything else. From Rio all the way through, even on the scene here, we knew you as the kid that broke in and got that gold, that medal in the Olympics in London, ahead of your time, and you were back and everything else. Is there a danger, and is there scenarios that you've been in over the times where you know you walk into a gym and lads are afraid to say what they think?
Yeah, listen,
We
none
won't
of the
name
coaches,
names. I'm not asking you to name names.
none of the coaches I've worked with, no, but there would be coaches who I would believe I had more knowledge on, and I'd have done some work with them and heard some of the things they're saying. I would have corrected it and fixed it myself. So there definitely is coaches out there who don't have a bundle of knowledge, but are up and coming and young. And I believe an awful lot of coaches now skip their apprenticeship as an amateur coach.
Mm.
I think you need to start off working with kids, teaching kids how to box, learning yourself while you're teaching these kids, and then developing yourself into a good national coach, senior coach, whatever it is, and then into a pro coach. Because there's some amateur coach, a lot of amateur coaches would not make good pro coaches. So, I think that there needs to be more apprenticeships done instead of I know loads of people who just go, I just want to do work with pros. You're like, well, no,
Mm-hmm.
go fuck yourself. I wouldn't work with you because you need to go and learn what you're doing because I know more than you. How about you been boxing longer? It doesn't matter about been boxing longer. You're not a boxer. You're just someone who wants to coach. Go and train kids and learn them how to box and learn the bad mechanics. Learn how to bloody step with punches. Learn what defense, everything like that. There's so much intangibles in coaching, and to be honest, I don't envy any coach because it's the most unthankful job in boxing. The fighter wins, the fighter done a great job. The fighter loses, the coach gets a blame.
Mm.
It's one thing I've made sure I've always done is, take full ownership of any game I've lost. You never blame anybody. So there's no point. You're the guy in there, you're the guy doing the job, gotta own it. But a lot of people blame coaches, and I don't agree with it. And even as a coach, most coaches, all coaches, I think, get less than what a manager gets, and they probably put more work in and deal with a fighter much more, and basically are the fighters, parent for a full training camp, or how many training camps they're ever going to do with them. So it's very hard. They're multitasking the whole time they're there. They're helping with the head, the mind, then also the physical, doing the work, and then having to think about opponents and what they're going to do. Trainers are underpaid, and I'm a boxing manager myself, but I would say compared to a trainer, a boxing manager does much less.
Some of the lads you've got, that's a longer version of an answer than I expected, to be honest with you, because there's a lot of cliched replies you could give to that. So respect to you for that. We just, I suppose, before we skip on ahead of forget about putting you back your team together, Wasserman coming to Dublin. I've been chatting to Phil Kirkbride. We're getting to organise everything, put in place. I suppose they've been ones we've been watching for a while. Calla has a reputation, and he'll fit in well in Dublin. He'll get on great with the Irish people. He's brilliant. Apart from being a Spurs fan, I think. Am I right in saying? I'm not sure about
Yeah,
that
you're
much,
right.
but
You're correct. You're correct.
we're all looking forward to having him in Dublin. We're looking forward to you. How do I put this without being offensive? I'm not being offensive. I'm thinking Dublin from Bernard Dunn's days has been stop start for whatever reason, and all those reasons have been documented. Some of them have been true, a lot of them have been bullshit. But what the fact remains is the last few years we've been lucky enough to we've had Tom Loeffler over here, we've had Dana and the crew, we've had Eddie dipping his toe in, dipping his toe in, and now we haven't had Frank yet, but we're seeing a lot of it. You've had that consistency in Belfast, and I've said this quite a lot to people in boxing circles, and you can answer this what way, is it going to take something like yourself and Katie coming down here? And I'm not saying that you guys there might be a future somewhere along the line, but I have a personal feeling that if there is to be that dream show in Croke Park or in Dublin or wherever the case may be, whatever the stadium, is it going to take a couple of standout names to make a show? Because what people don't realize is, and you can speak this from the management point of view, there's a lot more than just putting a card together and putting it on and getting someone over to film it. The overheads, even though we're on the same piece of land and the same island, it's ridiculous, isn't it? And there's an awful lot
Yeah.
to it. So is it something down the line that there's a home to be created here for however long this Mick Conlan career carries on, and it's going to take somebody with the profile and with the backing and with the magnitude that your career has to push something like that along.
I think Katie can do it herself. Katie is, in my opinion, the greatest sports star ever to come from our island.
Mm-hmm.
And if she was fighting Croke Park, she'd sell it herself. Now Katie's probably in the twilight stages of her career, even though she's getting better, which is crazy.
Yeah,
Um, but like you don't need Mick Conlan on Katie Taylor is the only person you need to do that. Now, to make it a consistent basis, yes, you would need multiple fighters to be headlight events and obviously cards to be stacked. So, you know, the cost for promoters to do shows in Dublin is expensive. Hotel prices are crazy. You know, everything is much more expensive. Dublin's probably the dearest city in Europe at the minute. It's more expensive than London, which is crazy. And
yeah.
I think that is part of the problem why Big Ten boxing is not there. Um, so yeah, listen, I would love to be part of the resurgence of boxing in Dublin. Um, when I fight in Belfast, 50% of my tickets are booked from the south of Ireland. So, it's
Really?
I'm a bigger name in the south than I am in the north. I know that. I've always known that. Winning sports personality in 2013 made me a
Mm.
household name for everybody around the country. And you know, now when I fight in Belfast or even when I fight in America, most of my tickets are booked from the south of Ireland. Even if you look at them on social medias, most of my following is from Dublin. Um, so yeah, it's somewhere that I believe I could have a base and set up shop in, but it's the cost which is going to be a hindrance for most of the promoters.
Well, hopefully, whatever way it plays out, and hopefully Wasserman and Callan, the crew and the team, are because they've been doing a phenomenal job so far, and I give props to yourself as well, Mick. There's a noticeable and don't take this the wrong way. There's a noticeable difference in you this time around. I don't know, is it the year? Is it an age thing? You could be accused of getting wise in your old age, or maybe is it the fact that your family and everything else? But it feels like at times you were at loggerheads with certain sections of the media. It felt like you were having to push. And I remember saying to Jamie a long time ago, I remember noticing it, that you brought a pressure with you from the amateurs that, rightly or wrongly, it didn't seem to come too many times before. Even with Katie just did what Katie did, and it seemed to, at times it seemed like there was people. It was like whack a mole at times. Lads popping up to have a go at it, whether it was a ring walk tune or whether it was anything else. But it feels this time around, whether it's the team, whether it's you as a person, whether it's everything combined, whether it's the Dublin there and the Sheffield there, whatever it is, it just feels different this time around. Is that fair to say, or is it just is it and it's not
You
there?
broke up. You broke up earlier. Is it fair to say? And then you went.
Is it fair? Is it fair to say, or am I just looking for something that's not there? Am I looking to wrap this up in a nice boxing bow and make a nice story of it? It just feels different this time
No,
around.
no, it does feel different. As it says, like I reshaped my whole team. I went out now. I'm manage myself. Have a new coach, new S&C, new nutritionist. I've revamped everything, and that's not. There's no personal things with the other guys who I work with. I'm still friends with them, still mates, still chat to them. But I just believe that me being up here in Sheffield and change a few things. Um, the nutritionist now he is closer. He's in Liverpool, but he would have worked with my nutritionist anyway, so they have a relationship. S&C, my S&C coach before Patrick, he works with F1 as well, and he's based down in London, so it's quite hard for him to be even at any session. So I says I'll change it up, and I'm now using Johnny, and Johnny is unbelievable, and he's great as well. So I'm still friends with all the guys that changed. The management side of things, I decided that if anybody makes the decision, I know which one's best, so I'll make the decision myself. Um, I didn't agree with some of the things before, so I decided just to take over and have control of it all myself and do it myself. So I, I've been very clear on what I wanted, and with the things I've done already, I'm at peace. I'm at peace with the decisions I'm
Mm.
making, and I know for me they're the right decisions. Where before probably wouldn't have been the case. Now I'm in control, and the training camp The coach, fantastic. The gym, fantastic. The confidence in my head is back. Everything is back. Time and speed, power is all getting better. And I'm just like, okay, I'm in the right place. It's the right time. Go and enjoy it. There's no pressure on you. No one expects you to do anything, so just go and have fun. And as it says, the next loss that would be it done. People will say that's pressure. That's actually more freedom than anything. Just going happy days. No, just go and have fun this time. Don't worry about anything else. Just actually enjoy your career, because I'd say for an awful lot of my career, it was always what's next, what's next, what's next. Mine's is just now. Let's get towards the world title. If we can get there, great. If we don't, so be it. Enjoy the raid. Stop getting caught up on anything. Now I actually just don't care about anything. People's opinions, what people say, social media. It's all false. So just do what you can do yourself. Believe in yourself. Believe in the team around you, and have your goals. Set your goals. Aim towards those goals. If you reach the stars, fantastic.
I had that same conversation with my good friend Dennis Hogan not long after the Charlo fight, where there was a lot of soul searching, and almost the exact same line, almost verbatim, was, "Mate, my next loss will be my last." He went on and he won his IBO title and he closed out a career. I still don't know whether he's fully retired or not. He wasn't too happy with how he went out on his Dublin show, but mate, it's special to see. I'm going to say this with respect as well, and part of the magic and part of that journey was, I suppose, yourself and Jamie, apart from just being brothers and apart from everything else, the magic of that journey. So whatever way that's gone, I hope that connection is, I hope, listen, you've gone and it's pure business. The fact that you guys are still, I mean, you're looking more like the pair you get older, you get more looking like as it stands, but it's incredible. And that must have been, probably, it would be safe to say, that was the toughest part of rebuilding your team. You're putting together all that, or is it just an overall decision that you made and it was step by step? And
It
that's
was
not
just
me
step by
prying or
step. It
not
wasn't.
looking
It
for
was
any.
no,
It,
no,
that,
no. It wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't the toughest part or anything. It was just something that needed done. Something that needed changed, and you know, I'm a person who, if something needs done, gets it done right away. There's no, what ifs or this or that. No, it's just that's it done.
it's a,
So that's all it is.
Mick Conlan, I have two questions left for you, and I'll leave you to it. And I appreciate this, as I wasn't expecting. I was trying to put it together without being cheesy or without being repetitive too much. But the stable of lads that you've got under you, I speak to Kevin regularly. What a fella! With the adversity
Yeah.
and the setbacks he said. I mean, I remember talking to Kev back in lockdown when he was being derided and laughed at. He was being refused for cards that he should have been walking onto. What he's done for a county and a part of the country, the size, we're starting to see Cork boxing explode now. If we were to see him and Colin
Yeah.
Crowley, but listen, one step at a time. You've got Dean Walsh. I remember scratching my head many years ago when I saw Frampton and I saw Anto Kakachi on the Cyclone card, and I remember scratching me. I was just as excited about Anto then as I was about Carl Frampton, and I was just as excited about Dean Walsh in the amateurs and all the way through. His story is, again, it's another one that people need to look at. You've got fellas like that. To me, they're winners. To me, there's no risk, there's no gamble. They're going to benefit and deliver with you guiding the way. Is it frustrating to see fellas like that? And they're just two that we can mention. There's probably half a dozen more that you've got under your tutelage now. To you, what do you see with those lads? A matter of time? Fights? Can you put a time on it?
I think Dean's came into the pro game quite late, but his talent is undeniable, and I'd be happy to put him in with anybody right away. You know, there's a Wasserman fighter on this card. Nice kid, good fighter, Dan Tard, and I asked could we get Dean versus Dan Tard, but I think Dan's in a rebuilding job after he lost, I think, on my card actually in March. So I think he's looking to rebuild, and oh no, all due respect to that, that's no problem. But that would have been a fight I would have been happy to put Dean in, and Dan's much further in his pro career than Dean. But with Kevin, he's the road warrior man, and he brings a crowd. He has the belief in himself, and the guy puts the work in. So
He does.
Kevin just needs the opportunities. And he had it in New York, and he let it slip. He kind of get caught up and just let it slip. So, maybe the occasion, who knows? Fighting in MSG is not an easy thing to do, especially in a big fight like that, which was a rematch, and fighting against an Olympian who, Emma Brennan, who in my opinion, Kevin beat him in the first fight, didn't get the decision, but fair
Yeah.
play to Emmett. He went and changed things up, and he won the second fight. So got to give him credit there. Can't criticize him or put him down. That he done a good job in the second fight. Um, I would probably like to get that rematch done at some stage, or not the rematch, the third one. What's it called? What did they call? What is the
Is it a
third time
rubber
round?
match even if yeah,
The
yeah,
rubber
somewhere
match.
along
The
the way.
rubber match.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because in my opinion, it's 1-1, but I don't. Can't really foresee it at the minute. Kevin's got to get rid of his man here, and he'll fake Cal Crowley in October. Dean Walsh has got to get rid of his man here, and then he'll fight Daniel O'Sullivan in October. Big shout to Jay Byrne, who has helped me an awful lot with my Irish guys and helped me getting them on shows. So, you know, and then I have also the night after them is in October. I have Janade Boston in a rematch against Fawaz here in Sheffield, which is going to be a fantastic
You're
one.
managing Janade now as well, are you?
Yes, I managed Janade now as well,
What
and
a fighter he is.
I'll have another big one very soon, but I'll say nothing until it's done.
Yeah. For some reason, I had said it to you there about Dean Walsh. I remember again, and the mind goes back to those incredible years. Your years as amateurs were just the most special years. And I say this I said when I speak to Kenny, I say it when I speak to a lot of those lads, John Joe Joyce, Davia. For some reason, when I mentioned Dean, and I don't know why, Davy Oliver popped into my head. It was like every time I saw him, I thought pro, this guy's pro, and came late.
Yeah.
There's a fine line, isn't there, between staying too long in the amateurs and not going too soon. There's a very fine line.
I think an awful lot of Irish lads over the years has stayed too long in the amateurs. People will probably say I stayed too long in the amateurs, and you could probably say that. I didn't turn pro to about 25. Didn't have my first fight till 26. So I could say the years I was going to win the world championships and stuff, I could have been winning world titles as a pro. Who knows? But at the same time, I created a history, and I'm very proud of that. So I'm happy with it. And then the reason being is, a lot of these guys from the 2000 Olympics up until 2016, were on serious money and earning much more money than what you would earn at the start of your pro career for the first way of your pro career. And obviously, pro boxing after Bernard Dunn in Ireland kind of died off, and there wasn't much big pros and big shows happening. So you had to go to England all the time or America, and America was more daunting than England, obviously, because it's much bigger, and obviously there's not as much recognizable names back from that time because they weren't really winning loads of medals. Bar Kenny and Darren Sutherland, who would have been the best Irish pro ever in my opinion if he hadn't been taken too soon. But like they were earning money. Like Paddy probably went pro. Paddy definitely went pro too late. Didn't turn pro till he was 30. Davy Oliver could have been pro from he was 18 and would have won everything.
Yeah.
When you fight like Davy as well, you take a lot of miles off the clock because Davy was in wars all the time, even as an amateur. And the more you get hit, the more damage happens, and the less the chin is susceptible to taking punches. So, it's a fine line, but in my opinion, a lot of that was down to the funding and the money the guys were on. I was able to buy my first house as an amateur, so fantastic, unbelievable. A lot of
Yeah.
people can't say that. I was doing that well. I was able to kind of get my own house and set my family up right away.
Incredible stuff. That's a conversation I'd love to have with you another day. Those magical years, because those years in the stadium with big Joe Joyce in the middle of the aisle, and you can't see around him. You can't see around him. You have to sit, and
Yeah,
nobody wanted to tell him. Nobody wanted to tell him to sit down. Yourself and Tommy doing the call outs in the dressing room and everything else. I mean, they were magical years. And then you get to the
unbelievable,
stadium. Just the atmosphere in
unbelievable.
the stadium. Mick, before I leave you to it, a route we don't look forward too much. We can't look ahead of the next fight. We've got Medicine's going to be a big challenge. It's going to be a big fight. I'm doing an interview shortly with Luke Jackson about what it feels like coming to the Irish crowd as the away fighter, and the impact of the Irish crowd and the Irish fans on an away fighter. I've always wondered how daunting or how it feels. You've been in some daunting places, but if we look ahead ourselves, Mick, what would a path to a world title look like at this point? And I know you're reluctant to do it, and I know that's up to us fans and us media people to look at. But it's a treacherous division at the moment. There's some massive hitters. There's some massive names. it's very careful steps from here on in, isn't it?
100%. Every fight has to be the right fight, and there's somebody I like to fight Stephen Fulton, the champion of the WBC, and I'm fighting for a WBC international title, so it gets me a ranking, and a fight with him on Paddy's Day would be nice, but not really looking that far ahead, and it's probably less lately than some of the other fights that will happen. But I would like to fight December, if not December, Paddy's Day, and there is some big names there, and it has to be big fights now. After this one, it has to be big fights, and I'm not going back down to the UK kind of guys or the UK level. Now there's some big fights with UK guys, but not the lower
Yeah.
kind of level ones. So I mean, it's exciting, and there will be some good opponents there. The featherweight division is throughout history has always been stacked,
Yeah.
and it's stacked right now. It's always going to be stacked. So you need to kind of navigate very smartly, and the right fights, the right time, everything really needs to happen.
Last one for you. Do you know something that came on my mind the other night, and I actually had to search it? Do you know what Vladimir Nikitin is doing at the moment?
He was in jail, wasn't he?
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know if he's. I think he's out now. I think he's out.
He's playing in goals for an ice hockey team somewhere in Canada or in Ottawa or somewhere like that.
Oh, really? I heard from a former Olympic champion from Russia that he got nicked because him and his mates were doing some fraud kind of thing. Or I don't think he was much to do with it, but because he was with his mates, he was guilty by association and Putin put them all in jail. So I think he's out. Yeah, I do think he's out. But if he's out, he just left Canada and went to, or left Russia and went to Canada.
I say this with as much love and as much Irish fucking cheek as possible, but he has a habit of putting himself in the wrong place at the wrong time and being in scenarios he
Listen,
shouldn't be.
I've no bad things to say about Vladimir.
He
Even
took
though
his beating twice.
what happened in the Olympics was not his doing, and I've always says, listen, if the Keane says we're going to take the medal off Nikitin and give it to you, I would say no, because that's his history. It's not my history. He went and won that. He didn't make he didn't do the fixer. It wasn't him that picked. Oh, we're going to get a medal here. So he went in, fought a fight, got beat up and got the decision. So fair play, got his medal, and that's his bit of history. So I would never steal his history off him, because I may have had the medal stolen off me, but not by him.
Well, mate, you're making your own history at the moment. That history at that time felt like it was the darkest day, and it probably was. But to credit to you, as you've always done, you reinvigorated yourself, you relaunched yourself, you picked yourself up, dusted yourself down, and you did what Mick Conlan always does. You flipped the birds to the boxing world, and you told people what they needed to hear. And rightly or wrongly, will it ever change? I have my doubts, to be honest with you, when there's that much money and there's that much involved behind it. But what is important right now is, Mick, you're living the dream, you're leading the dream. People who have been behind you all the way. And as I said to you in message the other night, I'll be as cheeky as you like, and I'll say it's about fucking time we got you down this part of the world. Dublin has been waiting for a while, and we're genuinely looking forward to it. So thanks for taking time to chat to us, and we're looking forward to catching up with you. And we'll see you I'll call it the point depot. It'll always be the point depot.
It's always the point.
It's always the point. And if you don't know what that means, you're of a certain age, go look it up. Mick, it's been a privilege and a pleasure, and thanks for taking time.
Good man. Cheers, mate.